They told you real wealth was built slowly, quietly, invisible, while the biggest opportunities in history were forming right in front of you. And right now, silver is standing where oil stood before the energy boom, where Bitcoin stood before the world woke up, where land stood before cities were built. A 7,000% revaluation doesn't begin with headlines. It begins with those who move early, who think differently, who understand cycles instead of chasing noise. And if you're watching this today, it's not an accident. I remember sitting across from a man who had lived through 3 financial crashes. Not someone flashy, not someone loud, calm, patient, the kind of person who listens more than he talks. He told me something I never forgot. Every time the system reset, he said, paper promises disappeared, but real assets multiplied. During inflation, during currency collapse, during chaos, his family didn't panic. They positioned land, gold, silver. While others feared, they quietly stacked what the world would later beg for. Most people wait for permission to get wealthy. They wait for news. They wait for confirmation. They wait until opportunity becomes obvious. And by then, it's already expensive. Silver has always been the people's money. It moves when systems strain. It explodes when confidence breaks. It rewards those who prepare before the crowd rushes in. And right now, every signal in history is lining up again. Here's the part no one teaches in school. Wealth isn't built by luck. It's built by understanding timing. In the early 2000s, a teacher in Texas started buying silver quietly every month. No fancy trading, no stress. Just consistent stacking while prices were ignored. Friends laughed, family doubted. But when silver surged years later, that small habit paid off his house, funded his children's education, and gave him freedom before 50. One entrepreneur I met during a conference had lost everything in the 2008 crash. Business gone, savings wiped. But instead of quitting, he studied history. He noticed something powerful. Every financial reset rewarded tangible assets. So he began stacking silver aggressively when it was cheap. Small amounts at first, then larger. Over time, his holdings multiplied in value, and when prices surged, he used that wealth to restart businesses, invest in property, and build passive income. They'll already be free. If this message opened your eyes, hit like so more people can wake up before it's too late. Subscribe for real wealth strategies, real motivation, and real financial freedom. And share this with someone you care about, because opportunities like this don't come often, but when they do, they change lives. Most people think wealth arrives in loud moments, winning big, getting lucky, striking something overnight. But real wealth is built quietly while the world is distracted. While everyone is chasing trends, scrolling through news, reacting to fear, a small group of disciplined people are positioning themselves where history always rewards patience. Silver has never been about hype. It has always been about timing. It sits silently while currencies weaken, while debt grows, while confidence in systems erodes. And then when pressure reaches its limit, it moves with force. The people who understand this don't wait for permission. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't wait until everyone agrees it's a good idea. They act when opportunity feels boring, uncomfortable, and uncertain, because that is where every major fortune begins. There was a time when land was cheap because no one wanted to live far from the city, a time when oil was ignored because nobody imagined cars on every street, a time when technology stocks looked risky and unnecessary, and a time when gold and silver were considered old-fashioned. In every one of those moments, the crowd laughed at the early movers, and in every one of those moments, the early movers quietly changed their bloodlines. Silver today stands in that same misunderstood space, not because it lacks value, but because most people don't study cycles. Now they only react to headlines. They buy when excitement is high and sell when fear arrives, repeating the same pattern that keeps them stuck financially. Silver is not just a metal sitting in a vault. It represents stored labor, preserved purchasing power, and protection against the invisible tax of inflation that quietly steals from savings every year. When prices rise and currencies weaken, the money in bank accounts loses strength, but real assets hold their ground. Every ounce of silver is time you work that doesn't disappear when systems strain. This is why throughout history, when empires crumbled and paper money collapsed, silver remained a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a foundation of rebuilding. It doesn't rely on promises. It doesn't depend on trust. It exists on reality. I once heard about a factory worker who didn't earn much but made one powerful decision early in life. Instead of spending every extra dollar, he converted small portions into silver regularly. Nothing dramatic, just consistency. Over years, while friends upgraded phones and financed cars, he stacked quietly. When inflation surged and silver prices multiplied, what looked like small discipline became financial stability. And that stability gave him choices most people never experience. The ability to change jobs without fear, to help family without stress, to invest when opportunities appeared instead of watching them pass by. This is the part that separates those who build wealth from those who chase it. Chasers look for excitement. Builders look for value. Chasers want quick results. Builders understand compounding over time. Silver rewards. Builders because it moves in powerful cycles. Long periods of calm are followed by sharp upward revaluations, and those who accumulated during the calm experience exponential growth when momentum arrives. It's like compressing a spring. The longer it stays pressed down, the stronger the release becomes. Fear keeps most people from stepping into these moments. Fear of being wrong, fear of looking foolish, fear of missing something else. But every breakthrough in life sits on the other side of discomfort. Entrepreneurs feel it when they start businesses. Athletes feel it when they push beyond limits. Investors feel it when they buy what others ignore. That tension is not a warning sign. It's a signal that you're early. Silver also teaches patience in a world addicted to instant gratification. It forces you to think in years instead of weeks, in strategy instead of emotion. This mindset alone transforms every area of life. When you stop reacting and start positioning, stress decreases and clarity increases. You begin to see money as a tool, not a source of anxiety. You make decisions based on long-term outcomes instead of short-term feelings. The world is moving faster, debt is growing larger, and financial systems are becoming more fragile. History shows that when pressure builds like this, real assets rise to restore balance. This isn't about predicting dates, it's about understanding patterns that repeat over centuries. Those who recognize patterns early don't panic when volatility appears. They prepare. Every great wealth story begins in moments when opportunity feels quiet. Not when everyone is talking about it, but when few are paying attention. Silver today is not screaming for attention. It's waiting for those who understand what comes next. There comes a point in every financial cycle where the gap between reality and perception becomes massive. On the surface, everything looks normal, but underneath pressure is building quietly. Debt expands faster than productivity. Currencies lose strength while prices rise, and people work harder for money that buys less each year. Most never connect these dots. They blame the economy, their job, or bad luck, without realizing the system itself is designed to slowly drain purchasing power. This is where silver becomes more than an investment. It becomes a shield. Throughout history, whenever governments printed too much money, real assets surged. Not because of speculation, but because value always seeks something solid to rest on. When confidence weakens, capital moves into what cannot be created out of thin air. Silver takes years to mine, requires labor to refine, and exists in limited supply, which is why it naturally rises when paper wealth weakens. This isn't theory, it's a pattern repeated across centuries, from ancient civilizations to modern financial crises. A small business owner once watched his savings shrink in real value while his bank balance stayed the same number. He felt like he was running in place. After learning about inflation cycles, he began converting a portion of profits into silver and gold, slowly, consistently, without trying to time the market. Years later, when costs skyrocketed and currencies weakened, his metals had preserved his purchasing power and even grown. While others struggled to keep up, he stayed ahead, not because he earned more, but because he protected what he already built. This is the power of moving from consumer thinking to ownership thinking. Consumers spend first and save what's left. Builders protect first and grow what remains. Silver shifts you into the mindset of preservation, patience, and long-term strategy, where wealth becomes something you design instead of something you hope for. The biggest transformations rarely come from one massive decision. They come from small actions repeated with discipline. This is how silver stacking works. One purchase becomes another becomes a habit, and that habit quietly builds a foundation of real wealth. And while the world focuses on quick profits and fast spending, you're creating something solid that grows through cycles. Over time, those ounces represent security, leverage, and opportunity. When markets shake and fear spreads, people who prepared don't panic. They observe. They understand that volatility is where wealth transfers from the impatient to the disciplined. Silver holders see dips as chances to strengthen their position, not reasons to quit. This emotional control is what separates long-term winners from short-term speculators. It's the same mindset that allows entrepreneurs to survive setbacks and athletes to push through exhaustion. Silver also creates optionality. When prices rise, you can convert gains into property, businesses, education, or passive income streams. It becomes a bridge from hard work to financial freedom. Instead of being trapped in one system, you hold an asset that gives you choices. And in life, choices are power. The earlier you start, the more powerful compounding becomes. Time multiplies discipline, consistency multiplies opportunity, and patience multiplies results.